doing our best to bring you the coverage of the ongoing scandal involving both Dianna Russini and also with Mike Vrabel as well, and what have you, as time has gone on, though. And we have secured, though, a chance to meet with one of the writers, though, who I think has been doing their best to get the truth out there in their own way, shape, form, or size. A warm welcome today to the 2PR this afternoon, to Crissy Froyd, who is joining us today here this afternoon. Again, we're writing now for theheavy.com, covering all things college football and, of course, the NFL. Crissy, thanks for taking the time out of the day here, and welcome to the show. And once again, thanks for being here. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I guess where I want to start with this, Crissy, is when you talked about Dianna Russini, you exposed what was going on down the pike. What was kind of the thought process? Because I didn't really see anyone else really going wild, crazy. You're the first opinion I really saw out there really talking about this. So can you just talk about the process of, I guess, exposing the information?
I wouldn't call it an accident, but I'll tell you right now that whenever I tweeted that, I thought there were other people, or that there were going to be other people. And I didn't even realize that until, I mean, it went viral. I didn't expect it to go viral. I was like, this is going to get like 150 likes. Not that I did it for that reason. But I mean, when I woke up and there were like 13,000, I was like, goodness. And there were like 2 articles about it. And then the next day I had no less than 50 interview requests, and it was all over the news.
Right.
And people have said that I was clout chasing and stuff. Like, I've been on ESPN several times. Mike Leach is my mentor. I'm already very established. That was not about that. So basically the process is that I thought that other people had already spoken out or would speak out. And just because the biggest thing is that I've known about it for so long, and so has everyone else. So now that it's out and now that she's resigned, surely everybody else is going to say something about it. And surprisingly, they didn't. But I guess, I mean, like I said, someone proposed her to be my mentor one time. I'm happy I said no, because I mean, and some of it was just the anger and relief at the same time of, can you imagine if I had done that? Like, I would have that connotation forever, and I'd never be able to get away from it. It would be unfair to me. No one would ever take me. It would be worse than what ultimately happened to me.
Crissy, I think the one thing that Nick and I talked about, and we've covered the story to a very long extent, though, we've mentally been kind of burned out by the story, what have you, and that's besides the point, though. But I recall, though, that Nick and I talked about Nancy Armour, who I think very well-respected USA Today sports writer, I think, wrote an article, I think, basically trying to pull everybody into the same boat when it comes to, maybe some stuff happens behind closed doors involving a reporter and a coach, perhaps, as I think you may have documented maybe in one of your stories, or just across the board, though, across media outlets that has been talked about. Crissy, would you go as far as to say, though, that maybe Nancy Armour is right, though, in some capacity with what she had written, that maybe this does group everybody in that inner circle, that if it's one person doing it, then maybe that 6, 7, 8, 10, 100 other reporters doing the same exact stuff?
Yeah, there are several other reporters that are doing the same thing. So I think that she was right in that. However, it really took me aback the way that they let me go over what I said on my social media, which was slightly aggressive, but nothing that anyone else was not saying. I just happen to have credibility, and people think that I know things, which I do. So that makes me stand out from the average Twitter user, or a reporter who's just getting started, or someone who doesn't have a lot of followers, things like that. But they put that, and it was a little bit more polite than what I said, but they put that in print. And I was told, whenever they were going through the process of figuring out what they were going to do with me, they were trying to figure out if my tweet would uphold, was some combination of that word, in a USA Today article. And I was like, what? So I'm an independent contractor. Right. You forgot to renew my contract after 2024. So we'll see how the law looks at that here coming up soon, if you catch my drift.
Right.
And it's on my social media. It's not in print, and I don't work for you. So what does that have to do with upholding in one of your articles? And by the way, I never signed code of ethics, never signed social media policy. You're not allowed to even do that to an independent contractor. As a matter of fact, someone from the college side of USA Today was telling me several years ago that there was this big to do because they were trying to impose that upon independent contractors. And they stopped because there was some sort of a legal issue, is what I was told anyway. So that's just all of that put together is very curious. And some people have said on my profile, it says something about like all of our reporters uphold blah, 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 blah. I've never seen that before. I did not give them permission to put that on my profile, nor did I ever acknowledge it. And I've actually never read it because I am not required to read it. And I do not work for them, nor have I ever.
I guess the question I have is, when you put out certain things on social media, whether just your individual social, forget USA Today or any other platform, did you think that maybe it was a little over the top-ish, maybe what you put out on social media as the potential as the employer, or in the sense you being a freelancer for USA Today? Maybe they were thinking it's a little risky, maybe what I put out there. Maybe they thought it was a little dangerous, possibly. I'm just asking in a curious sense.
Yeah, it doesn't involve them. That's all I can say.
But what about from your personal social media? Didn't you think it was a risk that they could have released you from the freelancing contract or whatever agreement you signed because of some of the potential of the comment?
I don't know. All I can say is that nobody else has cared. From an employment perspective, no one else has cared.
Again, folks, Crissy Froyd, again, college football, college sports, NFL writer from theheavy.com, joins us today on Press Row. Crissy, again, stepping away from, USA Today, may have been some kind of a big move, though. But maybe from your perspective on things, though, with how the industry has gone, though, how much maybe did the shifting boundaries maybe of editorial around how breaking NFL insider news is now validated and managed factor into maybe your exit from the publication to move on to bigger and better things?
I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question? I'm not quite sure that I understand what you're asking.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, so maybe were there any perhaps, maybe clashes between like the editorial staff of USA Today and yourself with maybe how you would go about reporting on certain things involving the NFL or college football that maybe they didn't like that went to like their standards of editorial journalism?
I mean, I guess you could argue that, but I mean, I'd also like you to go back through what every freelancer has posted on their social media and even some of the employees. You'll find things that are very similar.
Good to know.
So I guess and I'm trying to think how to ask this in a certain way. I watched your interview with Howard Eskin, by the way, which I thought was good. But I guess you were talking a little bit in code. At least that's what it seemed to me when you were talking about other female reporters. So I guess my question is, you were willing to expose Dianna Russini in certain ways, but how come when Howard asked you the question about other reporters, you were kind of talking around it in code?
Part of it's a legality issue. Part of it's the fact that I have spoken up enough and I've given enough information. And if no one else is going to do it to the degree that I am, there's some people that are like kind of doing it, but not really. I'm not going to go off and do that by myself. There's no reason why I should have to do that by myself. And if there's no one else who's going to do it at the same time, why should I take the brunt of whatever backlash there's going to be? Is for your sake? No.
But okay, then why mention that the reporter started with a J?
Because people have asked me to drop names and stuff like that, and that's the most that I could give you. So I followed through on that to the best of my ability without getting myself into hot water, potentially legally, and then without starting something else without the support of others.
Okay. Crissy, I think the other thing that, Nick and I have racked our brains about is also, the instant fallout, though, of, from Dianna's perspective, though, again, the resignation letter. But also, I think the other thing, though, is that we're kind of waiting for this other shoe to fall at some point revolving around Mike Vrabel, where, again, Mike stepped away from day 3 of the NFL draft. I believe there was a report today put out that the family was seen together after one of their sons got engaged, I want to say. Crissy, is there going to be any more fallout from your perspective? We already know about what happened with Dianna, but anything maybe in your mind happens to Mike Vrabel? I mean, I'm of the belief that something very small probably comes out of it. Nick's of the same belief. But what do you think, though, from your perspective about the other shoe falling in this case?
I would say that I believe he's much more insulated and protected than she ever was. And because the two situations are a little bit different between what's professional and what's moral. And for him, I kind of feel like with the way that the NFL works and stuff, unless they find tampering, of course, it's more of the moral perspective for him and more of the this is what your contract says. This is the journalistic code of ethics, which all that stuff she did have to sign. So it's a little bit different. And just in a situation like this, if he's person A and she's person B and we take names out, person B is going to get a lot more punishment and a lot more fallout. But it's all going to depend on what they find in that investigation. I mean, if they find all sorts of stuff and they find tampering and all sorts of just other things that go against NFL rules, then yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot more left for him for sure.
So I know you mentioned that you said there's possibly, or I think you said there's other coaches involved between the NFL and college football. Again, throw the names aside because I know you're not going to mention them anyway. Is it a lot? Is it a lot of names? Is it a lot of, like, is there a whole line of coaches possibly that are involved like in this situation or no?
Yes, in this particular situation and in others for sure. And there are a particular 3 to 5 that are like heavily involved in this pretty much all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just when you think you know everything. I would say as well, though, yeah, Crissy, maybe away from this case real quick. I know that, we've been very much, following Brendan Sorsby's investigation. Again, we had the very big gavel get dropped, though, over the course of the week involving the injunction. Now the rumblings of all these emergency meetings between all these conferences, the Attorney General's office now firing back at all of those. Crissy, can you probably add a bit of an update maybe on where this whole thing is going? Because, we spent the first hour of our show today talking about this whole thing. And I even, printed out the bylaw 10.3. I work in college sports, by the way. I work at the University of San Diego here. I worked in Division II and D1 athletics. But Crissy, how do you view this story, though? Because, I mean, this could be sending off a massive chain reaction across not just Red Raider football, but, I mean, we're talking about maybe the whole athletic program, though, if teams do maybe pull them off the schedule. But what can you tell us about this whole thing?
Oh, yeah, it's certainly easy to get bogged down in all the legal terminology and go through what all that means and what overrides this and what overrides that. I think that to the casual college sports fan has their heads spinning and even takes me a little while to wrap my head around to make sure that we're reporting correctly. Because if you mess that up, that is way worse than saying something about Dianna Russini, and anybody's going to have to kick you out of the door and not get sued.
Right.
But yeah, the thing that you say about the massive chain reaction, this is going to be just like Josh Pate said. He compared the NCAA to a poodle that was acting like a Doberman. And we're going to find out, do they lean more into Doberman and figure out how to become Chief Doberman? But I think the NCAA...
Well, I was going to say, in my case, it's a French bulldog acting like a Doberman.
I was looking, I'm sorry, I've been looking at the camera because that's what I've been taught to do on TV. But yeah.
Yeah.
Good dog. But yeah, I mean, I think between this case and some others, there's been other like small build up, like the transfer portal thing. I feel like the NCAA kind of gave in, so when it comes to that, it's like it's been this steady small thing, and then this is like the big boom. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a very pivotal moment where we're going to see schools and programs kind of be able to do what they want and override the NCAA. And I'm curious, in the next 5 to 10 years, does the NCAA even stand for anything other than like 4 letters?
And, I've wondered about the same thing, Crissy, because, locally here in San Diego where I live, my conference is losing Gonzaga. They're going to the Pac-12. San Diego State and like 4 other schools left the Mountain West. That's a whole nother legal case going on that I don't think is going to be resolved anytime soon with like the poaching fees. They added Grand Canyon, a GCU in 1 year early that really ticked off everybody. They try to say that when you left that you gave up your voting power. I mean, I don't know, though, Crissy, if we could be in a more volatile state right now of college athletics when it comes to realignment, when it comes to the portal, when it comes to NIL, Brendan Sorsby's issues that, there's the cascading effect, I think, personally, is only going to get worse, as you were saying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have the SEC basically like it's like civil war, like trying to secede. And then
that's like, talked about for who knows how long.
And Iowa State in their conference, like, go ahead and leave. And then the other people are like, fine, we'll play without you. And then both sides are like, we'll be so much better without you. Watch what happens when we're without you. And then, like you said, all the different changes in the conferences and the NIL, who has the most money to give, like, especially like with what we saw happen with Colorado, like completely different program. I went out to Jackson State when Deion Sanders was there. I was invited out there. And I remember sitting at a picnic table with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. And Shedeur goes, that's the guy we just gave $1 million to. Schroeder was very, very humble and quiet at that time. He became a totally different character at Colorado.
Oh, for sure.
So I want to go back slightly. So you said you got into the industry, what'd you say, 16? I heard you say, or you started going out reporting at 16? Like you
15.
were talking to coaches and doing all that stuff. I guess what I want to know is what advice would you give to people who are getting into the industry at that young of age, for women mostly at that age, how to deal with that type of situation, or being around coaches, being around executives, being around people, players that have a ton of power in that regard. And sometimes they kind of mistake their power for different situations. What advice would you give those types of people that want to get in the business?
Be careful and find respectable people. And also an issue that I had, which I struggle looking back on now, if I should have done something different, is I looked older than I was. And that's not an excuse for what some of these players did. Some of them were on the Tennessee Titans. That would like send me explicit photos without me asking for that. And at the time I was like 15. So stuff like that can happen to you. And I wish I would have reported it, but I mean, I didn't know what to do. I was just getting involved in the industry. And frankly, I was kind of scared and didn't know who to say something like that to. But I would say if something happens to you, ignore it on your own, report it to the proper sources, probably the SID or something like that. And don't give in to stuff like that. There are very good people like Mike Leach. Nothing going on, believe me, nothing going on between myself and Mike Leach other than something professional. But building that relationship and all these air raid coaches and other guys that I've talked to, I mean, I learned that entire offense. I was in all the offensive meetings at Mississippi State, like basically like I was a part of the team. And so I built a very high status and became very respected for learning and go learn an offense. And build relationships the right way. And I think another thing too is that when you do that, I mean, every woman deserves to be respected, but whenever you really start making those connections and doing stuff like that, I mean, any coach that's going to ask you for sexual favors is probably going to be scared of a guy of Mike Leach's stature that does it the right way, and he hears that they're doing that. So I guess that's how I would put it.
I just want to follow up on one thing. Was it all football that you're dealing with in this situation for people that were doing these types of things, or was it other sports? I'm just curious in that regard. Was it other college sports? Was it other?
Yeah.
Was it just football?
Yeah, I can see why you asked that question, and I'll go ahead and answer it this way because I don't want to overstep into things that I wasn't involved in. I would say a little bit of baseball, but one thing about me is I've always been so football focused. I haven't really ventured into those worlds a lot. I've heard things about it. I would assume there's a decent chance that it goes on because I mean, it's kind of like the same like status, different sport, but I will not, I only speak on things that I know to be true. So I don't want to imply or just go off handle like, yeah, this happens in the NBA. I would not be shocked, but I can't say that for a fact.
Crissy, I was going to ask though, like, what made you gravitate to getting into the sports media industry? I grew up back in the, late 90s when the Padres were going to the World Series and the Chargers won the Super Bowl. Padre games on the radio, wanted to become a public address announcer, play-by-play guy. I write on the side nowadays here in town as well, along with doing work for minor league hockey and college sports. But what made you gravitate towards sports, but also sports media like you have done so well for your career?
Yeah, so I was in yearbook in high school. I actually didn't even like sports that much. I had an English teacher. I wrote 2 essays about a football game I'd been to. I was like, you should actually pursue this. And then I kind of tried it and then fell in love with it. And my trajectory went very high. I mean, I was on ESPN and leading a USA Today site when I was 18 years old. I believe I'm the youngest person credentialed through the NFL. And if not, it would be a tie because they require you to be at least 18 to go out there. But I still show dogs, but I mean, I was very involved in dog shows, and it's weird because I have a breed standard. It's like the gait, the expression, the drive, the this, the that. And when you look at quarterback stuff, it's like mental processing, mechanics, velocity. So that kind of stuff interests me. And so and it's the same thing. I have a degree in psychology and I study psychology. And so there's all the different degrees of like the way they analyze this person and that person and serial killers and these things. So it's all the same. And I've done a lot of stories on Ted Bundy and know his defense lawyer. And that was another project that I had weirdly enough pursued over the summer that really freaked me out as I got deeper into it. But all those things go in the same vein, if that makes sense.
Looking at the industry and the way it's changing, away from, a little bit away from writing, a little bit more digital, a lot more podcasting. What is the goal that you're working towards? Is it to continue to do writing for or freelancing for all these sites? Is it to do your own stuff? Is it to do a podcast? Where do you see yourself kind of evolving in the industry?
Yeah, so I think there's been a big question as to like, is this who she is? Is she going to lean into this? I mean, I said what I had to say and didn't expect anything to happen. And I was just going to kind of roll on. And then USA Today decided they were going to have an issue with this, even though, I mean, I reported the Zach Arnett stuff about how he was abusing players and stuff like that. And I knew that that's relatively similar to this, but it's on a much smaller scale. They didn't care about that. They didn't say anything about that. And I've had a few instances like that. So I was shocked. And then it's funny because in the email, they say it's because we don't want to be tied in the news cycle. And then they come out with that statement. It's contradictory. So which one is it? But I had to defend myself and had to respond. And that's why this has been such a bloodbath and why this has been ongoing, is because they chose to make that mistake. And even Mike Florio said, and a lot of other people said, you're a weirdo for doing that. And if you look under the comments section, it's like they really thought they were doing something and they got spewed vitriol and profanity at, and nobody supported them because they look stupid. So anyway, some people have questioned, like, is that like who I am? That's not who I am. That was like literally a tweet that happened in a huge situation that blew up that I did not expect to speak on any further and didn't expect to have to speak on any further. I'm known for analytics, air raid offense, studying offenses. Paul Feinbaum called me the best quarterback analyst in America on national television. Those are the things that I am. So I am looking to do the same reporting I did on the NFL and college that I have always done, the same appearances that I've always done, and just kind of roll on. Now, the independent thing is becoming very common because there are so many networks that pay so horribly that people might be paying their light bill and the water bill and maybe their cell phone bill if they're lucky by the end of the month. And that's where full-time jobs are not abundant, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So a lot of the time you can make more money as an independent. Like Arif Hassan is making 6 figures a year with Wide Left, doing a phenomenal job after I don't want to say anything because I cannot remember if he left The Athletic or he got fired. I think it was the latter. I can't remember. But anyway, no, he's one of my good friends and he's doing a great job. Tyler Dunn doing a great job with that. There's a lot of people on Substack, and then there's like Beehive, Ghost, all that stuff. And these people are making all this money. They're building out staffs. And the other thing too is like, if worst case scenario had happened to me, or if I just chose to leave the traditional realm, after you've been in this for so long, everywhere will credential you so you can make your own money, you can do your own thing, and you can say what you want and not have a fear of getting an email from someone who decided to have a problem with it. And as far as that stuff goes, if they wanted to have a problem with it and I was aware of what I couldn't do, of course I would have followed it, sure. But I wasn't, and they need to have a certain level of consistency.
I just want to follow up on one thing. Do you think this was media censorship, what they did to you, or no?
I'm very curious as to what it was. So, and that's the thing too that I wanted to know is, did you notice it took them like 3 days to do this? There were like 2.5
days
on it. Yeah, like 2.5 million views on it by like the next morning. And I mean, when they get an email about something that, from what I've noticed, they're pretty quick. And if they had an issue with it, before they went through the process, they should be like, hey, delete that. Or, hey, we don't know what we're going to do, but hey, there's a problem with that. They saw it. There's no way they didn't see it. So why did it take you 3 days? I wish I knew the answer to your question, and I am hopefully on my way to finding out through other means.
Well, do you plan on fighting this? 'Cause I keep hearing that you mentioned it kind of in passing, like legally. Is that the plan? Is that what you're planning on doing? Or was that more of just a impasse as you're talking?
I wish I could answer you more directly. I'm so sorry. Basically, use your best judgment and watch what happens within the next 2 to 4 weeks, I'd estimate.
Okay. That's my answer.
We'll be ready for that. Crissy Froyd, thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it. Where can people find your work, though, and find you on social media?
Yeah, heavy.com. There's a few other networks that I am currently in talks with that I hope to join. I founded my own publications. One's called Ace 95 after the air raid offense. The other one is called On Paw because I used to work for the largest dog magazine in the world. I do a lot of different kinds of journalism, but I've been so busy with all this stuff that the website is built out for those, but there's nothing on it yet. So there's
yet. It's coming.
Yes, I want it to be perfect. So it'll be there. And then I know there's been a lot of questions about my next move, like professionally. So my next on-site coverage will be the Manning Passing Academy. And I'd like to make clear, I think there's some people that are like, oh, she's done forever. No, I still freelance for places. I still have standing. I still have TV appearances. I still have the ability to get in places. Quite frankly, I think what you're going to find is however long, I don't read any of the articles about me. There's like 5 every single day from what I heard. My friends like, look at this. And I'm like, I'm not looking at this and I don't want to hear about it. It will eventually, it'll probably rise and then fall and rise and then fall for a long time. And eventually it'll go away. But quite frankly, I'm ignoring it if I have anything else to report. And because people are like, oh, is she going to say something else? If I have anything verifiable, I report it as I find it. But one thing I want to make clear is I'm not going to be like, let me go pull a little paper out of a hat and see what lie I'm going to tell today. I've thought long and hard. And I mean, if we ever went to court, which they're not going to because they don't want the discovery, I could tell you each and every way that I found that out.
I guess the last thing out on the way out the door is when you saw your name popping up everywhere. I'm sure you saw it. It felt like hitting the lottery. You saw your name everywhere. It felt like at times. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Was it annoying? Was it?
Oh my gosh. It was surprising. I opened my email. I said, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I bet.
It was. And I mean, there were times that it was like, oh, this is like kind of fun. I've never been on Inside Edition before. E-News is talking about my boyfriend ex-boyfriend who never asked to be drug into this. We're in People magazine. We're in Page 6 the same way that literally Russini and Vrabel are. It was just insane. I would say parts of it were exciting. There was kind of adrenaline because it was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But for the most part, I would say that it was highly unpleasant and unexpected.
Fair. I get that because I'm sure at one point you were just like, all right, I need this to like slow down a little bit. And
yeah, and then I started getting recognized in public and I was like, I'm going to flee. I don't want anyone to know where I am.
Like public figure status at one point.
Yeah, because I was afraid that it was going to continue to blow up so much. I was going to go to Atlanta and there was going to be like a TMZ, Crissy Froyd has come out of her house. Because I mean, for a while, I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think it was trending that way.
Yeah.
Especially, and they were like, I could tell some of them were trying to find the most provocative pictures that they could use. I went to the beach in a bikini. Someone's probably going to take a picture of it. Be like, hey, Page 6 and TMZ, you want to see this?
I guess, and I keep extending this, but the last thing I'll say is, what's the most ridiculous headline someone has either made up of you on this story? Because I'm sure every major publication has come up with something.
There are a lot, but the two are Crissy Froyd admits to sexual relations with a former college football player. Have you seen all the public record that he and I we went to the Senior Bowl together. So I'm not admitting to anything. And also that was a guy I was seeing. Like, have you ever seen someone, like dated them and y'all had sexual relations? Collective gasp. Apparently that's never happened before. And then the other thing was that apparently whoever pulled this out of their ass, that I got Tommy Stevens kicked off the practice squad with the Saints. Why don't you go ask the Saints? Do you think that would have been reported on for him breaking COVID? No, I did not.
Oh my gosh.
And also you should not be writing articles off of a meme from college football transfer portal. No, that's not true. And it was so crazy. But now I'm like, I wonder if like guys, like just men in general, like on dating apps, they're like, she got a guy kicked off the practice squad and then her like,
I'm sure they do,
on blast in People magazine. What's going to happen to me? And it was all totally unintentional on my end.
Oh man. Well, yeah.
You know what, Crissy, I wish you a bunch of success. I hope everything goes well for you. And thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.